Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 16 now?
116.
I had to double check. My goodness, I'm losing count. I'm losing track. We've got a few things to talk about. We had a trade to announce last time. We have a few trades to talk about this time around. We're going to ask a couple things right at the hop of the show here. Number one, if you are waiting in the comment section, please feel free to just start putting things in there about how you felt either about the game tonight or trades, whatever else, and we'll kind of start cycling through. Also, if you can go ahead and retweet us, share us on Facebook, anywhere and everywhere that you've seen our post. If you can get that out to your friends, family, let's get the conversation going in here because I'm looking forward to having a pretty good conversation with all the things happening tonight. We'll get to some of the trades. I want to zoom through the game really, really fast just to give people an opportunity to kind of come in here. So the Sharks lost 4-0. Nothing happened in the game. There you go. We're essentially done now. So, Aaron, are we ready to talk about the trades?
Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in.
I'm sitting here going, what just happened? Well done. Well played, super producer Jason. You are awesome. Okay, so the first thing, and we talked about this last episode, Aaron, Devin Dubnyk sent to Colorado for Greg Pateryn and a 2021 fifth-round pick. What do you think about this one more time? Okay, I felt it was a good trade. I thought it was decent value. Some people didn't really agree with you, and I know you're going back and forth with someone on Twitter. I don't know if you want to bring that up or not.
Nope.
But go ahead and just kind of give your thoughts on that one more time.
Well, the Sharks gave up a fifth-round pick to get him originally, so they get that fifth-round pick back. So Dubnyk pretty much gave up his services, and the Sharks got another defenseman on top of it. Again, that defenseman is just a right-handed. Was it Pateryn?
Pateryn.
I'm never going to say his name right. Pateryn. The Sharks or the Avalanche needed to get rid of a roster spot, a contract basically, and so they probably just asked the Sharks, which one do you want? And they said a right-handed shot defenseman. We'll take him. So he's a 30-year-old guy. He's not some top prospect. It's not like they're going to have something waiting in the wings. He's pretty much a 6th, 7th defenseman that's a right-handed shot. In case somebody gets hurt, he'll probably be in the – I don't know if he's he's not on the taxi squad yet because he just got traded. They've probably quarantined for a little bit. But anyway, I don't expect to see a ton of him, but at least they have some depth there. And I'm fine with the trade because Dubnyk was not going to be re-signing with the Sharks next season. This kind of frees up the pipeline in a way of goaltenders that we have. So now Melnichuk and or Koshinash, another guy I'll never say correctly, is going to get some. Was that right?
Yeah.
Koshinash. They're going to get some playing time. I probably the next week or two, you're going to see one of those guys get a start here, especially with the back-to-backs coming up. Maybe this weekend. Jones is going to get some rest. They're going to kind of see what they want. And this is essentially going to be see if either one of these guys can be a backup next season, a full-time backup. Now, I don't know if these guys are ready to be starters. Melnichuk, I still think needs a lot more time and a lot more starts at AHL level. And on top of that, they signed Zach Sawchenko, and that helps because right now you have to have 3 goalies up basically at the NHL level, 1 on the taxi squad. So both Melnichuk and Koshinash are either on the team or on the taxi squad, and none of them are playing at the AHL, so nobody's getting any minutes right now. So signing Sawchenko means they could probably bring him up or rotate those 3 guys around to kind of get all 3 some NHL experience and at the same time get some regular playing time at the AHL level. So I think it's fine. It's fine trade with me. They like we're going to go over these other ones. Doug Wilson pretty much got something from nothing. So he's bolstering up. And granted, they're not high-end draft picks. They're not first, second, third round draft picks, but better than nothing. And you see this all the time where the Sharks will trade multiple picks to move up into the draft or even move down and get multiple picks. So giving them some more options coming up.
Yeah, more currency, more draft currency assets to use. You can go ahead and make those picks. And I think Doug Wilson had said this as well. Those guys that are in the later rounds, especially this year, there's the scouting was very different this season. So you might see a lot more of these guys who maybe would have gone higher in the draft kind of falling just because the scouting on them was incomplete. So if they feel that they've got, an inside track on a guy and other teams around the league maybe don't, then maybe they can go after that guy in a later round. So, absolutely, these fifth round picks might actually be worth a little bit more than a typical fifth round pick might be. And as we said, he might be packaging these ones to move up a little bit in the draft. He's no stranger to doing that. So, or how the Joe Will special is, the trade the fifth to get 2 sevenths. So maybe he's stocking up on fifth round picks to get extra sevenths. Who knows? But yeah, so my thoughts on Greg Pateryn again. This is a guy who he needed to be added to the deal to make the deal work. The salary cap wasn't going to work otherwise. The amount that he makes and the amount that Devin Dubnyk was getting paid by the Sharks, again, there was some salary retention originally from Minnesota, but the amount that was left over was essentially the exact same amount as with Greg Pateryn. So that was a guy that needed to come back to make that trade work. It just so happens that he's a depth right-handed defenseman who's not of the fancy, flashy variety, like, say, an Erik Karlsson or a Brent Burns, not the offensive talent. He's a guy that's going to run around and hit people. So not somebody I even expect to really get many games in, although the way that Jarosz was playing tonight, I'm not 100% sold. So, hey, maybe he factors in the lineup and they kind of see what he can do. If he shows them a little bit of something that they like, a little bit of that physicality, and he's been fairly responsible, maybe you'll see him get re-signed. But this is a guy I fully intend to see make it to free agency in the next season here. So again, like you said, not a prospect. In any case, getting a fifth round pick right back for a guy that was probably not going to be resigning with the Sharks. Although again, he said all the right things, saying that they treated him the right way. He would have loved to see what they could do in a full season with San Jose, making it sound like he would like to come back. But hey, who knows? So in any case, there's a clip here, and I'm going to warn you guys right now. We have several clips that we're going to show you guys. So we're going to be cutting back and forth quite a bit, but you're going to be hearing directly from Doug Wilson, his thoughts, and the media coverage that they had with him. So we've got lots of these clips here. So this first clip that we're going to talk about here, he was asked essentially, were you hoping that they were better picks, or do you think that the picks that you received were fair? Now, this was a question that the community was asking, and it was very appropriate that the media had asked him this question as well. So we're going to go ahead and roll this clip and see his response.
No, I'll be honest with you. I think if you asked me now, I think they're pretty fair. I think this is where we wanted to get to, especially in the uniqueness of this draft. We think that's why getting 2 of those picks in this year's draft was important. We have 8 total. Probably by the time we get to the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if we have 10 picks. But a lot of the players that haven't played or haven't been seen much, I think the ability to get some really good players in those mid rounds is probably more than it's ever been before.
So you noticed in that clip there, he said we have 8, and by the time that we get to the draft, maybe 10 picks. So Aaron, I mean, it sounds like he's kind of hinting at something else happening at the draft.
Yeah, and I can't remember if I clipped one of these other things that he talked about, but they're asked about the expansion draft, and he pretty much said that I think what he's doing, or what he did this season, is he has a bunch of cap space, and that was on purpose because there's teams that don't have it, and they're going to get desperate and need to move some players. Some guys are going to want to get something in return instead of Seattle taking him for free. So we might see some players moved around, and the Sharks are going to be in a good position to get some of those players. So I fully expect there's going to be some prospects or players, or maybe some teams are going to send some terrible contracts our way to the Sharks this season because we can bury them in a way and get fully compensated for them with more picks. So he's hinting at some stuff here, which is fantastic. So this is not going to be all the draft picks. In fact, we have a graphic here to show you right now. This is how many draft picks are in possession of the Sharks going into the draft. So we don't have the second round draft pick because that is part of the Karlsson trade. But for 2021, we have our first, third, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, a 6th, and a 7th. That is 8 picks in 7 rounds. So they have an extra pick than they normally would have. And we fully expect them to have some more going in there. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those get traded up for probably a second round pick because they're not in that second round pick. Did you see what Columbus has done, by the way?
No, please go ahead.
Columbus traded a couple players away. I wasn't even bring up the Sharks one. Just in general, they have 3 first round picks in this draft. Now, that's amazing. That's great. And Boston was kind of the other team that had done that recently. in the 2015 draft, which is funny because that 2015 draft was very deep, and the 3 players that they got right in the middle of that round, I think only one has regular NHL experience, so they kind of whiffed on a great opportunity there. But I forgot where I was even going with this. They got 3 first-round draft picks. But I know this draft is going to be a weird draft because a lot of these young players are valued differently than they normally would be because of COVID. A lot of these guys haven't played as much hockey as they normally would have, so it's hard to value them. There's not really like a clear consensus of order in terms of where some of these guys are. So I think it's a terrible time to have 3 first-round draft picks, honestly, because there's a higher chance that you're going to whiff on those picks being an NHL caliber player.
Okay, fair enough. Super producer Jason just put on the screen and he just took it off. But if you're enjoying the stream and you want to contribute to the show, monetarily at least, please feel free to hit us up on the Venmo there at the Fin Factor. The more you know. Thank you very much. So yeah, if you'd like to do that, please feel free. Otherwise, Super Chat is always there and available as well. So if you'd like to support the show, we would absolutely love to hear from you, and we'll certainly read your comment out live right now. So I wanted to see one comment in here. Where did it go? Well, Sonic Tonic saying, hi guys, hi chat. Yes. Hello. How are you doing? Where did it go? Doug Wilson will have a busy offseason. Anthony Sanchez. That's the one. Yes, absolutely. He will have a busy offseason. Now, we just talked about, him going from maybe 8 draft picks. He says, potentially even up to 10 draft picks. And then that graphic, we saw that they had no second, but they did have a pair of 4ths and a 3rd. I mean, it wouldn't be inconceivable to have him package the 4ths together to get to a 3rd and then package the 3rds together to get to the 2nd. There's lots of different things that he can do here, as well as, his own assets in terms of the players and whatnot. So there could definitely be a whole lot of movement. He's got lots of options when you have that many draft picks available to you. So it'll be really interesting to see. So while this season may not be the best season to watch Sharks hockey, there's definitely going to be some really interesting things happening in the offseason, during the draft, even free agency. It'll be kind of a wild one, I think, because, again, the Sharks are going to have a pretty good amount of cap space, especially after Seattle pulls one of those players. If they pull, say, a Brent Burns, that's a ton of money freed up that you can spend on a very solid player in free agency that might be able to, supercharge this team going back into, competitive mode. So, who knows? I think that one of the best things to do really would be to keep your eye on it. And even though the Sharks aren't very good right now, it'll be a very interesting offseason. And I think it's definitely something you guys want to keep your eyes on. So there's that. Anyway, moving on from this one here, the Devin Dubnyk trade, which already happened, we already talked about in the last episode. Stefan Noesen was traded to Toronto for a 2021 4th-round pick. Now, this was one that had a lot more going on behind the scenes. This was a 3-way trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So what happened was Nick Foligno got sent to San Jose, and Columbus retained half of his salary. San Jose then flips Foligno, and this is part of the deal. It's not like they had Foligno as an asset thinking, we're going to keep him, and then got another trade offer. This was already kind of predetermined. So all they were doing was helping out with the salary retention, and in doing that, they were able to get the 4th. But so Foligno basically goes to Toronto, but Noesen goes with him. So we end up dumping a contract as well from a guy that had played, 5 games, I believe, Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, he played 5 games for the San Jose Sharks. And no disrespect to him, he was the first guy that we ever interviewed that's an active roster player. So that was cool, but he wasn't exactly a difference maker on the team, and he wasn't a guy that was getting any playing time, really. So he was waived, sent to the Barracuda, and past waivers, nobody picked him up. So to be able to trade him and just basically use the salary retention as a way of doing that as well with Foligno to get a 4th, that to me is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a guy that was not, like you said, he's not even playing for the Sharks, and they get a 4th-round pick for him. Granted, that's part of the cost of doing business, of retaining that salary. And that salary, I have it right here on Cap Friendly. They're holding $1.375 million of Nick Foligno. So the Sharks, they were asked, or he was asked about this as well. And we'll get to this clip. Actually, it's a little bit later for the different trade, but there are some other teams out there that were doing the same thing. You saw a lot of 3-way trades where a team was retaining salary, or multiple teams retaining the same player's salary and trading them. It's kind of a workaround, I guess, for retaining. You can only retain 50% max of a salary of a player for trading them. So it's kind of a way that GMs have figured out how to make it work. But the cost of doing business is giving up some of your picks for it. So the Sharks were able to take advantage and get themselves a 4th-round draft pick and also shed yet another contract off of their books. So the Sharks, I think going into today, were up to 49 contracts or 48 contracts, and they're down to 46. So making more space to take on some other contracts, making more cap space, or I guess taking on because they had cap space to deal with it, but it's only retaining for 1 year. It's not going to be around for a long time. I think it's a great, yet another pulling an asset out of nothing, really. Here's Stefan Noesen that anyone could have claimed him on waivers and didn't, and now they had to pay a 4th-round draft pick for him.
Yeah. No, and again, they're paying for the salary retention, but again, you get them off of your books, right? So I don't know. I think it's a pretty solid move. Now, I see in here Anthony Sanchez at Paul. What UFA is going to want to sign with the dumpster fire Sharks? What's the point of having a lot of cap space if nobody is willing to sign with the Sharks? Hey, you make a good point, except it's invalid because Taylor Hall signed with the Buffalo Sabres.
Well, the Sharks are setting themselves up to have a lot more money to spend on higher free agents. Sharks they still have a pretty good core. Erik Karlsson is world-class offensive defenseman. I'm not going to say he's a world-class defensive defenseman. That's just not who he is. But you don't think a winger's want to come in here? And the other thing is Seattle's coming into the year. That's going to dilute kind of the free agency pool in a way that there's more players that are going to be looking for teams. More teams will have some space. So some of the teams are going to get stuck and not be able to sign those high-end talent. Just like you said, Taylor Hall went to Buffalo, which is an odd choice. I mean, Buffalo wasn't supposed to be such a dumpster fire that they were this year. Nobody thought they were going to be with all the talent they had. But it's not that the Sharks or San Jose is not a destination point. I think a little reset, bringing in a couple more depth players next year or some scores, I think is going to change things around. I don't think they're that far away from being competitive again.
Yeah, I think players talk to each other, and I think that guys that are interested in maybe accepting an offer from the Sharks are going to talk to other players that they've known that played with the organization or played against that played in the organization, guys that they've played with, in their college years or their junior years, and talk to those players. And I think they're going to see exactly how firsthand accounts. They're going to get that information on how the Sharks do treat their players. And you've only ever heard good things about the way that the Sharks players get treated in San Jose. And of course, it's in San Jose. It's a nice place to live as well. So those are things that I think are intangibles that other teams can't really offer nor touch because of just straight location. And then, of course, because of, again, the front office, the way that they treat their people. I mean, Devin Dubnyk said it as well, and he was here for, less than half of a season or about half of a season. So I don't know. I think there's definitely reasons that a player would want to come to San Jose, even if their record wasn't the greatest and they weren't able to make playoffs. I think they'll take a look at the roster and say, you know what, these are world-class players in Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, Logan Couture, Evander Kane, even the guys like Timo Meier and Kevin Labanc who are struggling right now. Those are talented guys. If I was on this team, I bet I could kickstart that line and we could get going. And it would be great to play with these guys who are constantly going to be looking for me from the blue line up the ice. So giving me lots of opportunities. And the fact that if you are a pretty solid player, I mean, even when we were talking about Ryan Donato, who is not by any means a superstar in this league, he was getting opportunities on the second line. So if you're a pretty good player, you're going to be on the top of the roster there. So I don't know. I think it's good opportunities right now for UFAs looking at San Jose, but that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and move forward to the next trade that we wanted to talk about. This was Nick DeSimone going to the Vegas Golden Knights for a 2022 fifth-round pick. And I believe this was Buffalo's 2022 fifth-round pick, which basically means it's a late fourth, if you want to think of it that way, because Buffalo's very, very bad. But this one, again, was a three-way trade. Matthias Janmark was sent to San Jose, and salary was retained. This was from Chicago. And again, San Jose takes Janmark, flips him with Nick DeSimone, a defenseman who had a few games with the San Jose Sharks, along with Clayson. We'll get to him in a bit. They played admirably, I think. And actually, those few games, I think, might have been a reason that that VGK was saying, you know what, yeah, we wouldn't mind DeSimone, actually. So I think they're actually getting a pretty decent player in terms of if they have an injury, they can certainly plug him in. Although I think that they had said DeSimone was being lent back to the San Jose Barracuda, so he didn't actually have to go anywhere, which is kind of cool. So yeah, this is something that happened between San Jose, Chicago, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So again, they end up unloading Nick DeSimone, who is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he couldn't really crack the Sharks lineup. And they get another 2022 fifth round pick, which is going to be, it's Buffalo, so it's going to be a very early fifth round pick. Aaron, what do you think of this?
Yet again, another guy not on the active roster, and the Sharks are getting something out of it. And to me, I feel like it's pretty amazing what he did. And everyone of the haters of Doug Wilson say, "What are you talking about?" Like earlier today on Twitter. But I think he's done an amazing job of not really getting rid of any rostered players other than Dubnyk. And at that time, Dubnyk's been the backup to Jones since Jones has been playing well. So to me, it's like if the Sharks could make the playoffs, they would do it without, granted, they didn't bring anybody else on that was going to help their roster now, but they didn't lose anybody either. So I feel like if they had traded some active rostered players, you would really be like, wow, they're really not even going to go try to make the playoffs. But I think they still have a chance or still have a shot, even though they looked terrible tonight. There's still an outside chance that they could make it. So giving the Sharks a chance to still kind of make playoffs and make a little bit of a splash. But I just think it's great that he's getting all these picks for players that aren't even playing. Like it's pretty amazing. Again, it was the three-way trade and cap retention. And we have a clip here. They were asked about the benefit of the three-way trades and cap retention. So let's play that one right now.
Well, both the deals that involved us being a middleman in the deals, we expressed the ability that we'd save some cap space this year. I think coming into the last couple of days, we had close to 12 million in cap space, and that allowed us to be able to participate, to be a team that could help teams in a flat cap year be able to acquire some players, but it came at a benefit to us being able to acquire those picks, which especially with this year's draft are very important. So I think it was a win-win situation, but again, by maintaining our cap space this year and making some of the decisions we did, I think we were in a position to do this.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, they were in a position to do it. We saw some other teams in the league do it as well, and there were some teams that could do it, and they would have done the same thing. So there was a question asked, kind of a follow-up question of like, well, you did this with Vegas Knights. That's kind of weird. It's one of your biggest rivals. Why would you do that? And that was a really big question that a lot of fans had, because to me, fans go a little bit too crazy. Like, you don't deal with your division. That's really stupid. You're hurting yourself. But to me, it's like, come on, man. Like the Sharks aren't making the playoffs this year. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they should, not that they should tank, but I think that they should hope for a better draft lottery position than going all out and getting players coming in. So I don't mind helping the Vegas Knights because the Sharks just aren't even on their level right now. What the heck? Because if you don't, someone else will. And this is exactly what his answer was. So let's roll this clip right here of what Doug Wilson had to say about it.
If we didn't do it, 5 other teams would have done it. And it's what's best for us, acquiring a draft pick for doing that. So that's just the way that it works. It's like trading draft picks on the draft floor. So that's, I would rather we get that pick than some of our fellow rivals.
There you go. And the other thing is like, yeah, Vegas, you could think of it this way. You're taking away a pick from Vegas, so you're hurting them, right? In the long run, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, okay, so you get them Matthias Janmark, right? Is he a guy that you have to worry about so much going forward if they happen to re-sign him or whatever else? Is Nick DeSimone a guy who wasn't on your active roster, a guy that you have to worry about so much going forward? Maybe the Barracuda will have to worry about him, but again, they loaned him back to the Barracuda, so I can't imagine they actually need him right now. So I think these are guys that the Sharks are totally okay helping Vegas be better now, but it's probably not going to be too detrimental in the future. Look, if we're having a hard enough time beating Vegas as it is, Matthias Janmark isn't going to be the difference maker that makes them so much better than us than they already are anyway. So I don't know. I think you're 100% right. You take a pick away from Vegas, if anything else, and you take a pick away from any of the rivals around the league that would have done the exact same trade, giving up anybody else, not just, in this case it was Nick DeSimone, but one of their prospects who's maybe better than DeSimone, would make them even stronger. But again, you take that pick and you use it for yourself. I think that's the right move here. And I think, again, this is a guy that is not on the active roster, and we get a solid pick for him. Now, I know someone had kind of said, it's not really a haul because you had used that word before. Maybe that wasn't the right word to use necessarily. Haul would be kind of like a bigger, inbound of picks or higher quality picks or whatever. But still, to be able to pull something back, and I think a fifth is pretty solid for a guy. Again, like you said, he's not even on your roster. Right. So was there?
Well, hold on. Mark is a UFA after this year, so he's a true rental. He's not even going to sign with Vegas. So the Sharks miss playoffs. They get a draft pick from their rival. They're taking away a draft pick from their rival and helping out with salary retention for one season, or not even season. Just this year, just the end of this year. That's it. So they paid for a draft pick away from Vegas. If you were a Vegas fan, wouldn't you be upset that you just traded a draft pick to your rival? That I would be more upset about that than the other way around. So yeah, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, no, that's fair, because as a Vegas fan, if you think about it, you would rather that they did a three-way deal with somebody who wasn't a rival. Right? Because then you're giving that pick to somebody else, maybe in the East or whatever. I just want to call out one comment before we kind of move on to the next trade that we want to talk about here. I'm going to say this wrong, maybe Pinore. I'm not sure. He says, yo, is there other ways to learn hockey faster? I barely started and I'm choosing the Sharks to root for. So a couple things. One, certainly subscribe to our channel, because we really do enjoy talking, and you'll get lots of helpful tips and people that are being very kind, usually in the comment section when we do these live shows. So the community here has been really nice. We're very family friendly as well. So if that's kind of your thing, you're in the right spot. So absolutely be sure to ask any questions of the community. These folks here, super nice, super knowledgeable. They'll help you out all the way along the way there. And as far as choosing the Sharks to root for, you picked the wrong year, but you know what? We can only go up. Hey,
I'm okay with filling the bandwagon. It's impressive filling the bandwagon in a terrible year. So thank you for choosing. I'm curious, did you choose it because you like the logo or the jersey or something? Like what was the reasoning for it? Or do you live near San Jose? Just curious. I would say what I always tell people is always you need to go see it live. It's a little harder to do these days because of coronavirus. So try and watch as much as you can. If you're into video games, I think video games when I was a kid helped me learn the rules a lot quicker, just because you're playing it and seeing it more often than just watching one game. So that kind of helped me. But yeah, just watching a lot, just like any sport, watching a lot of the sport, you're going to become an expert on it.
There you go. Play video games. That's all you got to do. Well, and subscribe to the Fin Factor. But
right.
Either way, or both, let's move on. Frederick Claesson to the Tampa Bay Lightning for probably the coolest name I've ever heard, Magnus Chrona. Now, someone said that it sounded like he was competing in the World's Strongest Man competition, and he probably could, because he's 6'6", like what, 200 something pounds?
215 or something.
215 pounds, 6'6" goaltender. My goodness. Magnus is certainly the correct name for him. I think it was Jonathan Becker who had said, can we call him Big Time? Because I guess Magnus and Chrona, big and time. It works for me. I like it. It's very good. But I think just the name alone, Magnus Chrona, is solid as it is. Now, this was the guy who was the number one goalie for, it was University of Denver, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're really excited to pick him up. And I think moving Frederick Claesson, again, a guy who played, it was like 4 games. Yeah, 4 games for the San Jose Sharks. So kind of along the same lines as, Nick DeSimone or a Stefan Noesen, guys that only played a handful of games because of, injuries, or they were just kind of on a revolving door kind of thing in Naison's case. And being able to pick up an asset for this. Now, this is, again, a goaltender that they're kind of, high on. They see this guy and they really like his play. And the fact that he is the number one in Denver right now, I think it's I don't want to be optimistic, but I'm cautiously optimistic about this guy. Now I know we've got Melnichuk and we've got Sawchenko just signed. We've got Koshinash that's backing up right now. I think he's going to swap in and out with Melnichuk. I think Doug Wilson had said between Koshinash and Melnichuk, they're going to be going back and forth between the AHL for starts and the NHL for backups, not so much taxi squad duty. I think Sawchenko is probably going to be taking a lot of the taxi squad duty. But it looks like this Magnus Chrona is going to be playing again for Denver, which is great. It's good for his development. No need to rush the guy in. In fact, we do have a very short clip here. I think we'll just go ahead and roll this clip. This is basically Doug Wilson answering what's the plan for Magnus. So we'll go ahead and roll that.
Yeah, he'll be the number one goalie at Denver again, and but he's done very well.
As I said, it's a very short clip. So Aaron seemed to think that one was a 26-second clip. It was only 6. I tried to warn him. Doesn't matter. That's essentially all that he had to say about that one, apparently. Unless, Aaron, did you want to say the other 20 seconds worth of that?
Oh, man, I can't remember. He basically talked about how large he was, but not just large. He was a very athletic person. So usually when you have a large goalie like that, they're not as quick across their goal crease or something like that. So that's what they were very excited about him, was he's a very athletic 6'6" person. That's a very difficult thing. You don't see kind of very often. Think of it like a basketball player. Usually those guys, like, look at Shaq, right? That's probably the best example of a guy who is, I don't even know how tall he is. Is he close to 7 feet tall? Sure. But he's very slow. He's athletic enough to at least he's bigger than most of those guys, so you'd be able to box him out and stuff. But think of Shaq's size, at least in relative to NBA, but much quicker and more athletic. That would be crazy. So that's kind of what they're excited about this guy, is that he's so quick for how large he is that it kind of throws people off. And for an example, tonight's game, I just looked this up. It was the Stolarz, the goalie for Anaheim. He's 6'5". So this guy is even a little bit bigger than Stolarz, and Stolarz looks large in that net. So he's going to look like an absolute monster in the net. So this is a guy who, when Tampa Bay took him, I think it was a 5th round pick a couple years ago, he's kind of slated. He's still kind of on target to be eventually a star in the NHL. Now, it's not going to be for another 3 or 4 seasons because he's going to need a lot of development. Goalies tend to, other than super high-end draft picks, they tend to take about their 25, 26, 27 years old before you see him crack the NHL. And that's pretty much where he's 20 right now. So we'll see him about 25, 26 years old, assuming he's still in the organization, doesn't get traded away, or they just let him go. So not someone that you're going to see coming in right away. He's probably going to play all 4 years at the University of Denver before he comes into the AHL. So maybe we'll see him in the Barracuda in about 2 more years. But someone potentially, and the Sharks organization was excited to have him and work with him and potentially be a starter down the line. So good for the pipeline, because now we have Melnichuk and we have Chrona, and he is the coolest name in the NHL.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, if anybody can help out, new goaltenders and get them acclimated to NHL and AHL action, very confident in goaltending coach Evgeny Nabokov. He's done a pretty solid job with Martin Jones this season. Even Devin Dubnyk saying essentially, that he had worked with him before, but that he had helped him with so many different things that he's going to be able to take with him for the rest of his NHL career, however long or short that may be at this point. And that's kind of a lot of praise coming from a guy who's a veteran. You don't typically have someone teach you new things that you can take with you moving forward at that stage in your career. I think you kind of either your game or you don't, and you might have little tweaks here and there. But if Evgeny Nabokov is able to help a guy like Devin Dubnyk and kind of turn Martin Jones back around, absolutely looking very forward to what he might be able to do with the young Magnus Chrona. So moving on from that trade, again, very happy with that one. It's not a pick necessarily, but it's certainly a guy that they're high on and they're very interested in. So Antti Sumela gets traded to Toronto. There's a couple deals here with Toronto with the San Jose Sharks for Alexander. I'm going to butcher this one. Barabanov.
Sure,
maybe
that sounds right.
Maybe Barabanov. Doubtful. Barabanov. I'm going with that. So this is a guy who spent 7 seasons in the KHL, was signed to an entry-level contract. I think he's like 26 years old. He signed that contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs, played like 13 games, didn't really do much of anything. So I don't know. This is a guy that, he's got some skill, but it seems like he has a hard time maybe getting himself acclimated to the NHL level and kind of taking that next step. But at the same time, so was Antti Sumela. So this might be one of those, just a hockey trade, just trying to get these guys maybe a change of scenery. Who knows? So, Aaron, what do you think about this trade? Do you know anything about this guy in particular? And are you okay with bringing him on and sending Antti Sumela on his way?
Absolutely. Sumela, to me, he was kind of brought on, a season ago, kind of to be the third line center. That's what everyone thought he was going to be. And it just ended up not coming out, or he didn't pan out, I guess I should say. So kind of, I think we have a clip here from Doug Wilson, but it is kind of a change of scenery thing. It's nothing against Sumela. It's hopefully that he can stick in the NHL, and same thing coming back the other way, Barabanov. They hope that, NHL teams want to see players succeed, whether or not it's with their team or another team. It makes the league better, so it's better for the player development. And again, these aren't robots; they are humans, and they have feelings. And people get friendly with their colleagues, whatever, you know what I mean. So, yeah. So you want to see people be successful, and you want to see them work. Now he's coming from the KHL, and the KHL, I believe, uses the larger ice surface, which is this is why Melnichuk has not really cracked the NHL yet, because he needs some time to adjust, and there's a big adjustment period to it. Same thing as a skater. It's a much different game when you're on a smaller ice surface versus a larger one or a wider one. I don't think it's longer. I think it's just wider, right?
No. Well, I know it's definitely wider. I'm not sure about the length, actually.
Okay. So anyway, he probably wasn't adjusting very well, and Toronto is a very talented, deep team, so he probably wasn't going to be getting the ice time that he would be getting in San Jose. So I think it's a good thing. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll probably see him once he is past quarantine. I can't remember what it is coming here. I think it's a week in this county, in Santa Clara County. So I'm excited to kind of see what he could do, because he's a very high skill player. But let's roll the clip here of what when Doug Wilson was asked, was this like basically a hockey trade, or was it something more? Did you guys like this guy? So let's roll this clip.
Antti Sumela has done a great job for us, and it was giving him an opportunity. But Barabanov, we're very familiar with. I mean, he's won a gold medal, I think, multiple world championships, world juniors. He's a really talented guy. He might have needed a change of scenery. And sometimes that's what happens, a change of scenery for him and a change of scenery for Antti. But it came together, and it's a player that is a very talented, highly skilled, high energy guy that I think will be fun to see what he can bring to the table.
Okay. I guess I watched that clip because I said change of scenery. I didn't realize I was saying everything that he said in the clip already.
You're going off on like you're giving away the clip here, buddy.
I didn't know that was in the clip. I don't know. Geez. Okay. Anyway, let me real quick before I get you back on this. I see Kellen Foster saying he needs to raise the bar of Bonov of his game. That's awesome. And he even followed up with, "I'll file that one away." Very good. And then Noah Claxton. Noah Claxton also said, "I heard in 2 AHL games he had 5 points, but then he had none in 3 or 5, I think. So he's that borderline player, I think." Yeah. So I think he's kind of, I think you're right. He's kind of that guy that maybe does fairly well in the KHL, maybe does fairly well in the AHL, but has that hard time taking that next step. But as Doug Wilson had said, hopefully that change of scenery will do him well, and maybe Antti Sumela well as well. Go ahead, Aaron. Was there anything else you want to say about this one?
No, but I like Russian players, and I feel like the Sharks don't really draft or take that many. But I think with Nabokov here as the coach, I think that's going to bring in a little bit more of that Russian Russian players, because the Russian players are generally more, it's like, to me in soccer, because I grew up in soccer, it's like a Brazilian guy coming who is just a wizard. These guys are wizards on the puck and usually great skaters. So it's exciting for me to see those players kind of come in here and play, and the Sharks kind of bringing in a little bit more of those. So I'm happy about it. I'm happy to see what he can do.
Paul, is the AHL or KHL more revered for prospects? You know what? I'm not 100% sure because the KHL is, it's the top league in Russia, but I don't think the KHL is anywhere near the talent of the NHL. So I think they're probably seen fairly equally. Aaron, what do you think on that one, actually?
The KHL is less. It's not a development league; it's its own league, and they kind of rival each other. And they kind of back in the mid 2000s, kind of like during the lockout times, there were problems with players leaving the NHL and going to play in the KHL, and they break their contract, and vice versa. The NHL wants to bring this really high end guy that's playing the KHL. Was undrafted and a team wants to sign him, but the KHL is like, well, hey, he signed a 3-year contract with us, and that's screwing over the KHL league. So they kind of signed a truce deal that they wouldn't basically do that anymore. They would respect each other's contracts. The KHL is more, you get more Russian people, more Russian players, obviously, because it is in Russia, but you do see a lot of players. And what I was talking about earlier, when Seattle's coming in, a lot of these players that were kind of fringe NHL players, but they couldn't find a team because the teams were like, well, for the same price, I could get somebody younger who has more potential than sign somebody who's a veteran, kind of those tweener players, kind of like Stefan Noesen in a way. You see a lot of those guys go to the KHL because they'll be good enough to play in that league. Now, the KHL is not going to be the NHL level, but you'll see a lot of, especially the Russian NHL players that are towards the end of their career will go back and play there because they'll get paid. They're speaking in their native tongue, so it's a little bit more comfortable for them. The AHL is different because it's more younger prospects. And it's in North America. So it's when teams draft players and they're not NHL ready, they're playing in the AHL. And someone asked earlier, what's the difference between juniors and AHL? Junior hockey is for 16 to 20-year-olds. Right when you turn 20, you can play, but then you're playing against 16 to 19-year-olds. Right, there you go. So if you are good enough to make the NHL team, you can play the NHL as an 18-year-old. If you're not, you can't play in the AHL because junior leagues were like, well, you're taking all of our best players. It's kind of like NCAA in basketball. They're not allowed to. You have to have 1 year playing the NCAA before you can go to the NBA. So juniors will take those teenagers basically and have them play there, and then they can move to the AHL teams. So that's what we saw last year and last 2 years ago. Chekhovich and who's the other one?
Schmelzky.
Yes, they were playing on their junior team, and when the junior team finished and their playoffs were done, they were able to jump onto the AHL team. Same with Merkley; he did the same thing.
Yep.
So you're allowed to play once your season is over. And this year was kind of an odd year because of COVID. There was a lot of junior teams that weren't playing, so they allowed those players to play in the AHL without screwing up any of the rules. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but trying to explain it a little basic here. So that kind of explains that. Yeah. So what? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Noah Claxton, of course, bringing up the one league you forgot, the PHL. The Paul Hockey League, which is the best for prospects, according to him. That is a flat out lie, Noah. But I appreciate you trying like heck to get me in there.
They're just feeding your ego and you're eating it up.
If my head grows, it's not because I'm leaning forward. Okay,
you need a bigger hat.
I think you need a hat, man. The light's just shining off of that dome of yours.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it.
Yes, get on with it.
And moving on to the upcoming expansion draft and the role that these decisions by Doug Wilson and other teams will be making at the deadline. I know this is a clip that we have, Aaron. Was there any sort of setup you had for this one here, or did you want to start rolling into it?
Well, the question was kind of asked of were some of these trades made in preparation for the Seattle draft, and is there more coming? They even asked, and I don't think this is in the clip, but they asked about Brent Burns being exposed and all this other stuff. And Doug Wilson will never give an answer, so he didn't give an answer to specific players. And they even asked if Patrick Marleau was shopped around, and he won't talk about it because it's a private conversation. So this was again, did the expansion draft have a role in any of the trades that you made today?
Yeah, I think what happens is, we're prepared for it, just like we were the last expansion draft, and bringing young players in that don't have to be protected, that helps a little bit during this process. I think a lot of the conversations that every team has sets the tone for some of the potential transactions that could take place after this season, prior to the expansion draft. Everybody's pretty well aware of the position every team is in. Teams will have to make decisions. We feel fortunate that we'll have cap space. We've got young players. We will lose a player, just like in the last one we lost David Schlemko, but we think we're pretty well positioned to move forward, not only through building our team, but potentially take advantage to adding a player that could be available because of the expansion draft.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I love that. Because, and like I was saying, if you wanted to, you could re-sign Marcus Sorensen on a 1-year deal. He's got all the requirements except for that he's a UFA. So if you were to re-sign him, you can then expose him to the draft and have other guys that you are either already protected or that are UFAs that you want to re-sign, but just hold off on re-signing them, right? So he's talking about not just your own players, but other guys that you potentially would re-sign to then be exposed to the expansion draft. So, I think, again, he's talking about being in a good spot, in a good position during this draft. I think he, and along with everybody else in the league, has learned a little bit of something about how the Vegas draft went. Now, he mentioned David Schlemko going, which I don't even know where David Schlemko is right now. I liked his game, don't get me wrong. And I was kind of like, oh, that kind of is a bummer to have him go. But in the scheme of things, the long run here, losing David Schlemko was not at all detrimental to this team. Or maybe that's the reason we're so bad right now. Maybe we needed David Schlemko. Who knew? But yeah, I don't know, man. So was there anything else about that in particular that you wanted to talk about there?
Yeah, he mentioned at the end then that they're potentially adding a player because of the expansion draft. So I think, to me, that he said he's planting the seeds for at the end of the season or at the draft. He said if there had been a hockey deal that was a player that fit for now in the future, we'd look at that. We had a lot of conversations with a lot of teams that could lead to those discussions at the end of the year and prior to the draft. So he's planting seeds for movement for later. Maybe those teams didn't want to get rid of some of those players before going into playoffs, but before the expansion draft or before the entry level draft, maybe they're going to make some more movement. So the Sharks are in a good position. Doug Wilson probably was on the phone with a lot of other GMs, kicking the tires and saying, hey, we're available for moving some of these players if you want to get through that expansion draft, and here's the price for it. So like I said, the seeds are planted. I think there's going to be a lot more stuff. I mean, he's hinted basically 2 or 3 times during this whole interview that the Sharks are going to have more prospects and or picks going into the draft. So kind of foreshadowing, I guess. So there's going to be a lot more stuff in the offseason.
2 comments I want to pull up from Anthony Sanchez again. First of all, Schlemko is in the AHL. Thank you for that information. And then before that, I rather sign Nieto than Sorensen. 100%, but I would rather keep Nieto than Sorensen. So if you sign Sorensen first, he can be exposed during the draft. Nieto, on the other hand, if you sign him and he gets exposed, he might get taken by Seattle. So you hold off on signing him, and then once Seattle makes their picks, you sign Nieto to a contract after the fact, and then you get to keep Nieto. That's what I was talking about. I think we're on the same page in terms of the player that we would rather have. I just think we're maybe going about it differently. So there you go with that one. Aaron, last thing here, I think, was Zach Sawchenko was signed. And we talked a little bit about this already. I don't know if you had anything more that you want to say about it, but essentially it's for that taxi squad reason. I'd already mentioned he's probably going to be on the taxi squad. You're going to see Melnichuk and Koshinash flipping back and forth between the NHL for backup duties and the AHL for starter duties. So again, he's a guy that is maybe going to get a shot, but it seems like he's just kind of being used as a tool right now for that taxi squad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pure move just to move people around and more to get those other 2 goalies playing time at the AHL level, less than the NHL level. So yeah, he'll probably just take that taxi squad spot because they have to have somebody there.
Okay, there was a question earlier, and I'm going to have a hard time finding there. Mr. Sanchez, 1057, Super Juice Jason. Do you guys think Wilson held off on trading big names because until tonight, he thought the Sharks would be a playoff team? Okay, there's two things to unpack there. First of all, the until tonight, the Sharks would be a playoff team. Okay, they're out of playoff contention, but if you look at the standings, they're still just a few points out. I'm not saying I'm rooting for it. I'm not saying it's going to happen and you're all wrong. I'm just saying by the numbers, they might accidentally make playoffs this year. Okay, so it could still happen. I'm not saying keep the faith. I'm just saying don't be shocked, because if they do find their game, they might accidentally win enough to get in. So, who knows? I don't know. And they may get bounced in the first round, and that's fine, but it doesn't change the fact that there is still a possibility that they might actually make playoffs. So that's the first part. The second part of your question was trading the big names. Now, there was a report, and I think someone had said it farther down the list here, from Shang Peng, saying that Doug Wilson was listening to offers. He wasn't shopping Kevin Labanc, but it sounded like other teams might have been interested in Kevin Labanc's services. According to Shang Peng, he is a analytics darling. So apparently he was getting some interest around the league. Now, if there was a good reason to trade Kevin, like you're getting a first or something like that, okay, maybe. But the fact is, you've got Kevin Labanc locked up for, I think it was 3-4 more seasons. So if you don't need to trade him, there's no reason to. The UFAs, it makes sense because you'd rather get something than nothing, right? But to trade Kevin Labanc, the question really would be why? Unless you're getting something really big in return, there's really no reason to do that. You've got the leverage as Doug Wilson on Kevin Labanc on his contract. So I don't know that they were even really thinking about moving him unless the return was just insane. Patrick Marleau, again, he was a guy that reportedly had said, unless I'm going to a contender, I would rather just stay in San Jose. And good on him. I mean, this is a guy who pretty much knows that this isn't exactly the highest caliber team to make the playoffs. If they do happen to squeak in, they're probably not going to go very far. And I'm sure he knows this, but he said, unless I'm going to an absolute contender, I would rather not. I'll just stay in San Jose. It's okay. I don't think this is the guy that is going to retire after this season. It sounds like he's going to go for another season after this as well. Just kind of like that body language, if you will. It feels like he's going to go for another one to me. I don't know. But Aaron, any other big names that you think that maybe he was hearing from, and maybe you just want to address that question?
Well, I thought it was interesting. I think people saw that the LA Kings, after they played, they wrapped up their series against them. Was it Kopitar and Brown and somebody else stayed afterwards to congratulate Marleau?
Kopitar, Carter, and Quick.
So that made me think, I wonder if he's going to retire. And they were saying goodbye because that was the last time they were going to see him since the season was going to wrap up. They weren't going to be playing them for the rest of the series or season. So that made me think more of that than congratulating him on the feat that is going to be upcoming. But I don't know. I don't know if he'll be back. We'll see. He breaks the record. Do you think the Sharks would want him back, or are they going to give that spot to somebody else that is younger? Not so much cheaper, but younger, because they deserve more playing time. Would you rather have Patrick Marleau or would you have Jonathan Dahlen come over?
Oh, of course. I mean, if Jonathan Dahlen's ready to go, then absolutely.
His season might finish early. We might see him in the Sharks uniform at the end of this season. There's a chance that could happen.
I would be 100% for it. Having said that, Jonathan Dahlen is one of the best guys in the second best Swedish league. So we've definitely seen.
But he's trying to bring that team up to the first division. That's where he's staying with. It's his hometown, too, I believe.
100%. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to take a look at that and say, if this is a really good player and a guy who's ready to make the jump, you can't really say that because he's playing, again, in the second best league. When he takes that team into the best league, right, for the Swedish league, the SHL, I believe is what it's called, once they get there, okay, then we'll see really what this guy's made of. And even then, the SHL isn't nearly the NHL. It's more akin to the AHL or maybe even the KHL. So I don't know, being the best in the league that's behind what might be equivalent to the AHL, I'm not sure how much I'm feeling that. But anybody who can come in and maybe give the Sharks a little bit of a spark, I'm 100% behind that. And again, I would love to see him in TL. I'm just not going to put him on a pedestal just yet.
Sure. No, but still, I'd rather have him on the team than Marleau next year.
Sure. As far as them kind of congratulating him afterwards, I doubt that it's a "we know you're retiring, we're saying goodbye to you" kind of thing, because I feel like he wouldn't just go up to other players from other teams and just say, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to retire next season," because that feels like a very personal thing that he would keep to himself or to his own teammates and not have it permeate out to the league and potentially get out to the media. I just don't see that happening. I think they were just saying, "Hey, man, congrats. We're not going to play you again until, maybe the next season, and you'll have already broken the record. So we want to say congratulations now." I think they're hyper aware of his games played count and his longevity in the league. And I think that's pretty much all that was. But I mean, it could be the case that he retires next season, and maybe they were talking about that, but I don't know if I see that. I know you wanted to skip past this, but it was brought up in the previous question here was, are the Sharks still somehow in the playoff hunt? Again, I feel like they might accidentally find themselves still in the playoff picture if they get on a bit of a roll. Yes, they lost to Anaheim twice. I think they've been outscored 9-1 in the last 120 minutes of play against the Anaheim Ducks, which is horrid. Don't get me wrong. But, this team has found ways to bounce back. And a trade deadline that passed where you only gave up guys that weren't on the roster, that just means you still got the same guys that had beaten Minnesota previously, that had beaten LA previously, that had contended with some of these other guys that we're going to have to go up against. So I though we didn't have any additions, we certainly didn't take away from anybody that made us successful in a game here or there. So you could find us taking a game, stealing a game, just like Anaheim has no business beating the Sharks. We might beat a team that we have no business beating and gathering points, and again, accidentally falling into a playoff spot. The more you know.
Well, the Sharks, they're still only 4 points out. They're sitting 3 points behind Arizona with 2 games in hand. So if the Sharks win those, they're going to be in 5th place in the division. Still ahead of LA, and then they'd be ahead of Arizona and right behind St. Louis by a point. Depending on what St. Louis does. So they're 4 points out of a playoff spot. That is not much. It would have been better, obviously, if they won tonight and been 2 points out of a playoff spot. But, you can only ask so much against playing against the Ducks. But yeah, there's a chance that they could still be in the playoffs. And I think going back to that question a while ago about not trading any big name players, absolutely. I don't think Doug Wilson does not do tank jobs. He's not going to get rid of all these players and shed all the salary and be like, okay, let's just do it. We're going for that number 1 pick. That's not him. That's not how he does things. So there's still hope here. There's still hope that they can make playoffs, and they're going to push for it. And it's not going to be the worst thing for the Sharks if they make playoffs, because a lot of these young players don't have any playoff experience in the NHL, and it is definitely a different type of game. So it would be a huge development thing for these young players to make the playoffs. And like I've said before, if you get to the dance, you have a chance. So I know last week or the last show, I was like, I hope they don't make it. But now I'm thinking about it like, okay, it's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, I would want a higher draft pick, but at the same time, if they can make playoffs, you never know what could happen. Especially in the COVID season, watch a playoff team lose their best player to COVID and he's out for a week. What are you going to do? You might be able to take advantage.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly there are certainly factors that, again, they might just fall into it. I'm not saying, no, guys, keep the faith. And I'm not saying it'll totally happen, but I'm just saying it by sheer luck, we might make the playoffs still. It's not like we're in Anaheim's position. There's no way they're getting back into the playoff hunt. The Sharks are right there, for better or worse. They're right there. And again, we talked about this last episode too. I would hate to be that bubble team, the 5th seed out of 8, the first team that doesn't make playoffs, and then just go into the draft just not in a very good position at all. 15th or 13th or somewhere in there when, again, a tank job would be nice, but nobody goes in to play games and deliberately loses. No player wants to do that. So I don't know. Is what it is. Why don't we go ahead and do roll call, and then we'll talk about the next games in the next show that we're doing. So roll call. Aaron, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Tell us where you're watching from, and were you disappointed that some players were not traded? Let us know who you wish did get traded. I know there was some talk earlier in the chat I saw running through there of all these players everyone's Basically, everyone wants to trade everyone and just tank and get that first overall pick, which I don't think is very smart.
I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to say Mr. Sandpaper's comment here. Aaron said last show that he would love to see SJ make the playoffs because F***, which must mean funds the Blues.
I wasn't going to highlight it, but thanks.
Well, I'm doing it anyway. That is not word for word. That is not verbatim, Mr. Sandpaper.
Well, look at the next quote he had there.
Oh, not his exact words. Okay, all right. So he
I did not say that the last show. What I did say is it would be great if the Blues did not make playoffs because that would be a disaster for them. There would be a lot of firings. Can you imagine the Blues don't make the playoffs and the Sharks do? The Sharks, everyone would be happy for the Sharks and everyone would be pissed at the St. Louis Blues. And I think it would be fantastic if that happened.
One more thing I want to bring up before we talk about the next games. The Los Angeles Kings, they're not a playoff team.
No.
They're not a playoff team. I love it.
That's great.
Just because I said this, they traded a fourth to get Brendan Lemieux. Now again, is he a UFA after this?
I don't even know.
Maybe he's an RFA. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He's not. I don't think he's signed. He's got 1 year left. If they retain his rights, hey, that's great. That's fine. And they're thinking of the future, whatever. But to trade a pick,
no, he's got another season.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, I think if you're trading a pick to get a guy, I don't know. I think you think you're a playoff team.
They
didn't really even sell.
They did. They traded Carter.
Oh, that's right. They sold Carter. My bad. Yeah.
That's kind of a bigger name on the market. He's kind of older now, but that was a bigger deal. Kind of like Anaheim was expected to send out Getzlaf, and they did not. So
yeah.
So it's kind of like a trade like that. Like that's the old generation. Help a team as a veteran, as a pure rental player.
That's a big misfire, isn't it, on Anaheim's part?
Maybe there was no market. Maybe nobody wanted Getzlaf.
Must have been.
Or no contenders wanted him, I should say.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Marlowe thing, right? There's no contenders that wanted him. Maybe some teams that were a bubble team or trying to make playoffs wanted him, but maybe Marlowe said no thanks.
BKS says Oscar from the UK. I think maybe his name is Oscar. Okay. I have a bet that San Jose Sharks will make the playoffs, so would be nice. Well, hey man, for you, I hope they make the playoffs and hope you win your bet.
I mean, can you imagine? You imagine the Sharks? It would be a very Shark thing for the Sharks to just squeeze in the playoffs and then win a cup, because nobody would expect it, right? We didn't.
Yeah, not at all. Keith saying he didn't care about the trades. Well, that's okay.
Noah said apparently the Ducks wanted too much and the Knights were in on Getzlaf. Yeah, I'm sure they were trying to get as much value as they could, and yeah,
I think you take whatever you can get. Honestly, he'll pull a Patrick Marleau anyway. He loves Anaheim. He'll just re-sign with them next season.
And then all your fans will be upset because you didn't get much for him.
Better than nothing. I don't know. Okay, anyway, next games. So normally we do a show after every 2 games. We decided to do one tonight because we wanted to do trade talk. And thankfully, we didn't have anything to say about the Anaheim game, so we skipped right over that. For the next week, what we're going to do is instead of having the show on Wednesday to talk about the atrocious game tonight and whatever is bound to happen on Wednesday against Anaheim, what we're going to do is we're going to lump the next 3 games together. So Anaheim and the 2 games on Friday and Saturday against the Vegas Golden Knights. Aaron, are you looking for the Sharks? Obviously, you're looking for it, but do you think they're going to bounce back, have a better performance? Again, they were outscored 9-1 in the last 2 games against the Anaheim Ducks, the lowly Anaheim Ducks. Do you think they can find their game on Wednesday night?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to get a big chewing out and maybe a bag skate tomorrow. So I would fully expect them to be coming out hitting hard and playing hard on Wednesday after being embarrassed 4-0 to a backup goaltender of Stolarz. So yeah, I think I bet they come back and they beat Anaheim, and then they got 2 games against Minnesota on Friday, Saturday. I think they tend to play better against Minnesota, and Lundy's not here tonight because he usually is talking smack about Minnesota since he lives there. But yeah, I feel like can you imagine they win the next 3 games? They go on a 3-game winning streak right now. They're going to be right there in the playoffs.
They might actually accidentally become a playoff team. That's what I'm saying. All it takes is a little streak. And like they said, dude, they said it on the broadcast tonight. All the teams around the Sharks lost.
Yep.
That's all that has to happen.
one hot streak of a 3 to 4 game hot streak, especially in this year where there's only 56 games, right? So let me look at the standings here. Sharks have played 41, so they got 15 games left.
Yeah.
You put together 10 wins in those 15 games, you might be in there.
But Anthony Sanchez saying probably what you would like them to do is to go 0-16 to finish the season to get the better draft pick. I really like this Penor guy, except for the question that he had about have they ever won a cup. We don't talk about that here, Penor.
I can't tell if he's legit or if he's just trolling us.
No, he's definitely not. He's not trolling because he's at the bottom. He's like, well, I guess I'm not a bandwagon then. So good for you, my friend. Welcome. And welcome when we like welcoming in fans, especially when we suck, because again, you're not a bandwagon fan. So, hey, good for you, buddy.
Get on with it.
I think it's important to welcome the new guy. Whatever. Thank you, Jumbo God. Okay, so we're done with the talking about the next games.
Mr. Sandpaper asked, will Koshinosh be better than Jones by the end of the season? He's been actually doing very well on the Barracuda in the last 5 games or so, I thought. Wasn't he?
Sure. Statistically, he's playing in the league that's not as difficult as the NHLs. Now, you want to talk about, if that's what you're talking about statistically, or are you talking about if you look at the 2 goaltenders, which one would you rather play?
My point is his game is rounding out better than it was, and I think he's kind of on his confidence level is getting up there. And I think that's a big thing for goalies, is confidence level, because goaltending is very much a mental game more than skill. Everyone has pretty much the same skill. But it's the mental part that you're not gonna. Nice. He searched for us, or he searched for a shark stream, and you guys are here. Excellent. I was just kidding about the troll thing. Anyway, I think to me, goaltending is a lot more mental, and once you kind of get that confidence in yourself, and then also getting that NHL experience, which is why I was happy that they put him in the third period. Was it 2 games ago? Or the last game? I can't even remember. They put him in the third period, and so he got some action for the first time ever in the NHL. Instead of starting a game with nothing, you get those nerves out. And I forgot who it was. I saw a quote somewhere of a goalie that had just started his first game, and they said they were nervous as heck the first. I think it might have been Melnichuk. Nabokov talked about Melnichuk, and he said that his nerves were crazy, and he was so nervous that first game. Do you remember that game? Jones got pulled. They put him in, and Doughty shot the puck from his own blue line directly on him. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I remember watching that going, Doughty, you trying to just welcome to the league. Here you go. Here's a slapper from 150 feet away. See if you can handle it. Yeah, that was actually kind of smart on Doughty, because he knew that was his very first NHL game.
Keith is saying, great seeing you, take care. But before you go, Keith, super producer Jason says he has a surprise photo for us. Super producer Jason?
He does?
What do you got? Almost bought this item last night. Okay, here it comes.
Blue cream.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Who took that picture? Jason?
You did it you're supposed to go widescreen.
Oh, wah, wah. Okay,
so blue cream. That's a throwback to previous episodes. Penor, you're gonna have to watch every single one of our episodes now to be able to pick that one up.
I'll narrow that down. That was during a live playoff game against the Blues. That'll narrow it down for you.
There you go. Also, Penor says, I liked the video and subbed. So if you have not liked the video, that's okay. But if you've not subbed, that's not okay. You don't have to search for us. Although if you do search for Shark Streams, apparently we come up, which is great. But why bother to search? Just hit the subscribe button, and anytime we go live, it'll hit your inbox. You guys will know. And of course, if you follow us on any of our socials, which are up there in the corner of the screen, you can see all of our socials there. Follow us on Twitter mostly, and you'll be able to figure out when we are going live. So and join these conversations. It's a whole lot of fun. I'm glad that you showed up, actually, Penor. It's a good time. And again, the community's been really fun and kind to you. So thank you very much, community. You guys are doing awesome. Appreciate that. Let's see. The next show is going to be on Saturday, like I said. So we're going to do these next 3 games. We'll be back on Saturday night after the second Vegas game. and we'll do this all over again here. What about the dad shoes? Oh, dude, I don't know when we did the dad shoes. That was so long ago. Are you kidding me? That was probably in season 1.
Noah asked, I saw the Fin Factor toaster on Instagram. When is that dropping? Soon. We're going to have more stuff in the store very soon. More options.
Yes, we will have more options in the store very soon. Now, tonight is the last night. I tried talking them into it, boys. I tried. But is the last night for the 40% off. Penor, if you're enjoying the show, you want to help support, go to thefinfactor.com. We are currently running a 40% off store-wide. So this all supports the Fin Factor. It supports the show. We have premium t-shirts. They're now just $15. Snapback hats are just $18. Sticker packs are just $3. And everything is currently in stock. Again, we hold these items in inventory, so they're going to be gone at some point. So if we sell out of a certain size, that's it. Okay. So yeah, thefinfactor.com prices is marked through today, through basically an hour from now, or whenever it is. It's happening basically right now. So this is the last chance to get it. Now, in terms of the quality, again, we went good on the quality. The shirts are very comfortable. They're super soft. The hats are very nice. They have great embroidery on them. The logo really pops off of them and everything. And the stickers, they stick so well. It's ridiculous. Be sure, head over there, support the show. We do appreciate that. Anything else, Aaron? Did you want to? You said there's going to be some new products. I don't know if we can say anything about that, but we will have some new stuff soon.
We'll have some new stuff in the store. Look out for it in the next week or two. Noah asked, wait, serious question. When are you guys going to be back in the studio? I miss those days. We are planning on being back in the studio for next season. So probably at some point this summer, we actually have to build the studio. Yeah. The other one is, I think it's gone. I think we super producer Jason dismantled it and used it for parts. So we are going to be building a new studio, and we will be probably this summer, I would imagine.
Yeah. So if not the beginning of next season, and it's before that, it'll be after I've had my second shot. I got my first shot. Yay. And Aaron, I think you're all done, right? Because you work. Yeah. You work in what's it called?
Distribution.
Yeah, but what's the
alcohol distribution?
No, whatever. It's necessary for you, whatever that term was.
Essential.
Thank you, essential worker. You're an essential worker. There you go, because you distribute alcohol. Who knew? Regardless, so once I have my second one, I'll be able to do the show in studio with Aaron. However, again, we'll probably just wait till next season. Regardless. We look forward to seeing you guys next season. So if you're not subscribed, again, please do hit that button and hit the bell. Aaron, anything else? Oh, wait, hold on. Mr. Sandpaper, I would buy a ton of stickers if they had your YouTube channel advertised on them. Otherwise, no one would know what these random stickers mean as I litter them around town.
We're pretty low on stickers, so we're going to be doing a new run, and I'm going to add that on there, our link. So when we first got those stickers, we didn't even have the YouTube URL yet because we didn't have enough subscribers, so we couldn't put it up. Yeah, we'll add that on there.
Noah, long live the old studio. Nope, it's coming down, and we're going to build something a lot sleeker, a lot nicer. So.
Oh, we will probably have some bobble giveaways at some point, though. Probably towards the end of this season, we'll have some stuff to give away because we're going to do a complete redesign of the set, obviously. So look out for that. We will keep you informed. We'll probably do some sort of competition or not competition, but what's the word I'm looking for? Entry. Huh?
Raffle.
Thank you.
There you go.
Been a while.
We're helping each other with words tonight, Aaron. I'm feeling very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yes.
Failed. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end the show. I want to thank Penor for being an awesome member of the chat here tonight. And I want to thank the community for helping him feel welcome. He's got the big red heart right back at you, buddy. So with all of that, feeling the love here for super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
Saturday night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our show.